The answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center. Winds have become strong, cloudy throughout this day. High of 43, partly cloudy with winds gradually subsiding overnight, low 28, and cloudy for your Thanksgiving Day, and 39 degrees. It's 46 at O'Hare. Next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the IRS Radio Hour with Stephen Leahy. Every Sunday afternoon at 5 on AM 560, The Answer.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. But in for Amy today is the equally leggy John Cash, Chicago Tribune columnist. Podcast, the Chicago Way podcast. You want to check that out?
Leggy is right, because my legs would fit into a shopping bag with the 18-inch inseam that I have.
Exactly. Think if
built like a soccer player, my friend.
If you've never seen John Cash, think of Dorf on Golf. Right?
Who?
You know, remember Tim Conway's character, Dorf on Golf? You don't even.
People think that I'm 7 feet tall and that lightning bolts come out of my behind.
You're a mythical figure. There's no question.
I got blue face paint on today.
Which Thanksgiving message on trade would you like to hear first? The president, the current president, his name is Donald Trump, or a president from a bygone era named Ronald Reagan? Which would you like to hear first, John? You call it.
I would name all my kids Ronaldo.
Here's Ronald Reagan's Thanksgiving Day message 31 years ago, 31 short years ago on trade.
Here in America, as we reflect on the many things we have to be grateful for, we should take a moment to recognize that one of the key factors behind our nation's great prosperity is the open trade policy that allows the American people to freely exchange goods and services with free people around the world. The freedom to trade is not a new issue for America. In 1776, our founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence, charging the British with a number of offenses, among them, and I quote, cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, end quote. And that same year, a Scottish economist named Adam Smith launched another revolution with a book entitled The Wealth of Nations, which exposed for all time the folly of protectionism. Over the past 200 years, not only has the argument against tariffs and trade barriers won nearly universal agreement among economists, but it has also proven itself in the real world, where we have seen free trading nations prosper while protectionist countries fall behind.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Gipper. President Trump updating us on trade with China and a Phase 1 deal, saying this yesterday.
You watched the results coming in of the election I just had in Hong
Yes,
Kong?
I did. Yes, I did.
What's your message to the people who voted for those democracies?
Well, we're with them. I have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Xi. We're in the final throes of a very important deal. I guess you could say one of the most important deals in trade ever. It's going very well, but at the same time, we want to see it go well in Hong Kong, and I think it will. I think that President Xi can make that happen, and I know him, and I know he'd like to make it happen. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, trade among a free people. I don't know that the Chinese qualify as a free people. Nonetheless, the final throes was a good indicator, and also a good indicator, and the word is that President Trump is going to sign that Hong Kong legislation that passed with near unanimity in both the House and the Senate, which is what he should do.
To link both. To link the trade deal to Hong Kong.
I don't think it's
in the mind of the Chinese. I mean, like, they're not my friends. Okay,
it's
I'm not Tucker Carlson here.
It's not a linkage, or Tom Friedman, more like.
Or Tom Friedman.
Yeah, but interesting. Here's Jim Cramer. You know, Jim Mad Money Cramer, always ranting on CNBC. He had, though, a pretty salient observation about where the deal stands, who's in the pole position, meaning the United States or the Chinese, and distinguishing the substance of the relative strength of the two countries' positions versus the way the media is covering it.
Well, I do think that what's happening is that the hand of Xi keeps weakening, but the mainstream media keeps talking about it getting stronger. I think that Trump knows that that's not the case. His all of his trade advocates know that's not the case. If you saw Mnuchin come out and say, you know what, I'm finished with these guys, then what would happen is that we'd see a real deal. But we have to walk away to get a real deal. That's the only way to do it. We have to walk away. Because right now, I've got to tell you, I really don't think that China's doing well at all economically. And we are. But the mainstream media says that Xi is a great Chinese man with great democratic leanings, member of the WTO, and we have a madman as president. That's pretty much what I say.
That's pretty much how they cover it, Jim. Well stated. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Steve Moore, economist and Wall Street Journal columnist, author of the book Trumponomics. Steve, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, happy Thanksgiving, guys. And by the way, I love that long quote that you played from Ronald Reagan. I kind of vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
But it is a good. And by the way, this is I'm obviously a huge fan of Ronald Reagan, but I also love Trump. But this is an issue that two just have never really agreed on. I mean, Trump is much more of a trade protectionist. I mean, I think he wants to get a deal with China. He knows he's got to get a deal done so we can get this economy flying in 2020. But Trump doesn't look at the world quite like Reagan does, and it's the one thing that kind of troubles me a little bit about Trump. Although, the irony, because I know you were waiting to play that, so I would hear it.
Yes, I was.
And I know the way your mind works.
To remind you of what it was.
If Trump prevails here and they get a deal, the irony is, and I want both of you guys to, respond to this, then we will have freer trade with China. We will actually have low tariffs on both sides of the Pacific, and we will achieve exactly what Ronald Reagan talked about, but we will do it in a way where China opens up its doors to us. We can sell more of our agricultural products, our manufacturing products, our technology to the Chinese. And wouldn't that be a win-win for everyone?
Yes, to the extent that the Chinese communists are honorable people, which I don't believe they are, the Chinese communists in charge of that country.
I'm just going to reserve my comments. I'll have Steve Kerr make my comments.
Steve, sure, once he's done with his brother-in-law, the Chinese studies professor, and learns more about China. But Steve, what about what Jim Cramer said, that to get a real deal done, the United States has to essentially walk away and have President Xi chase them, chase us?
Well, look, what has to happen with Xi?
Essentially, Cramer arguing we have to show willingness to walk away and make President Xi chase us.
Look, I think that's the strategy that Trump has tried to use. I think that what surprised us, though, is that look, our political leaders have to be accountable to the people, right? That's why we have elections. Their political leaders don't. I mean, if a few million people or 10 million, 20 million people are thrown out of work in China, do you think that the Beijing government really cares? All they care about is holding on to power. So I think it's a dangerous game. I mean, I do agree it's a bit of a game of chicken, but, we face an election next year, and Donald Trump faces an election, and President Xi doesn't. So that puts me in a stronger position.
Let me ask you this. Is the thinking of the administration, and perhaps your friend Larry Kudlow would have some insight on this too, just out from Fox Business, U.S. growth revised higher to 2.1% GDP growth in the third quarter. Is the position...
Wait, say that again.
GDP growth revised up to 2.1% in the third quarter.
I had not heard that. Woo!
Yeah.
All right, you buried the lead there.
Well, I just came across the transom, so...
Okay, great. That made my Thanksgiving holiday because, we were at 1.9% in the left. You didn't even get to 2%. Well, there's a big difference between 1.9 and 2.1, so that's good news.
All right, have an extra helping of dressing tomorrow. But here's the thing. Is the position that, hey, look, we're not growing at 3 and 4% GDP, and maybe we could if we remove some of these trade barriers, but 2% is good enough, and we'll continue to hold out for the bigger, better deal with China.
Look, here's what's going to happen. It's very likely they're going to have this truce, and it basically is a truce. Is this a great deal? No. China's agreeing to some modest things about buying more of our agricultural products and maybe some of our manufacturing items. But this is not this trade dispute with China and this conflict that we have. I really believe we're in a kind of new Cold War situation with China. This is going to go on for years and years and decades. And this is just the very, very first battle. And so, this is going to be like pulling teeth, getting the Chinese to, start behaving themselves. And look, they've violated every single precept of the WTO. Every one. They steal technology. They have forced transfer technologies. Their tariffs are 3 times higher than ours are. How do you trade with a country that's involved in such abusive trade arrangements? Now, the contrary to that is, well, look, if they want to give us stuff at low prices, we should buy it. And I respect that position. But, boy, it would be a better world if both countries opened up their trading channels and we could sell our stuff to them and they could sell our stuff to them, and maybe we wouldn't have a $400 billion trade deficit each year with them. Not that I'm obsessed about that. But look, who's in
the stronger negotiating position here? The Chinese,
in the short,
who look to the long term, like 1,000 years or 300 years, or Donald Trump, who wants to announce a deal now so that he can run for re-election on a deal?
Well, I think in the short term, China has a bit of the leverage because they know Trump really needs this trade deal to get the economy really soaring in 2020. And if he has a strong economy, he'll win a big re-election. Now, but in the long run, I mean, this is the important point. We're celebrating, Thanksgiving tomorrow. When our forefathers tried socialism, you guys know this story. The Pilgrims, they almost died. Right? They almost starved to death. All
lost
of them.
colony?
There was no production. Right. And we have moved, thank God, over the last several hundred years to a free enterprise system. And China has moved more and more in the last, number of years towards a centrally planned command and control economy. I'm going to put my money on the U.S. of A. I am. That model doesn't work of having government leaders choose where to invest and what industries they want to subsidize. That's the Elizabeth Warren model, and it does not work, folks. The goose that lays the golden eggs is the free enterprise system, and thank God we have it.
Let me ask you a question about the Republicans, and this is a prospective question, but we like to stay ahead of the learning curve here at the Morning Answer. We talked a little bit about Marco Rubio's speech about common good capital.
I hated that.
I know. Common good capitalism. That was at Catholic University.
Yeah.
Josh,
you know what it sounded like, by the way, Dan?
That you hated it?
Compassionate conservatism.
Yes, kinder, gentler, compassionate conservatism. Yes, exactly. Well, here's the thing.
It was basically saying, I like capitalism. We just need a little less of it.
Right. I need capitalism as long as I'm directing it. Yeah, it's oxymoronic with the emphasis on moronic. But here's the thing. Josh Hawley, rising star in Republican ranks, Republican senator from Missouri, he's saying some things that are also seemingly headed in that same direction. He talks about economic policy and our communities and neighborhoods being intertwined. And of course, that's true. But he says things like this from a recent interview he gave to The Atlantic. It's amazing how many of these major companies pay no taxes in the United States. We've lost out on companies moving jobs overseas. We've lost out on them hiring workers at ever lower wages in this country. And we've lost out from the lack of taxes being paid. Another guy this is sort of speaking in the lexicon of common good capitalism.
Yeah, Josh Hawley is a very dangerous man, and he's becoming, he has a big following in the Republican Party, and he wants to totally regulate the internet. He wants to regulate, what big technology companies can do. He is not a free enterprise guy. He is very much in favor of this, break up the big companies, which is, preposterous. We should be happy that companies like Apple and Amazon and Google are American companies and that we dominate these industries. So he is, I'm really fearful of this guy. And he, as I said, he's getting a big following among conservatives. He is not a free market guy. And Dan, I'm glad you brought this up. Although we have to talk about this the day before Thanksgiving.
Well, I know, but I mean, there are these fissures forming in Republican ranks, and we should point to them, right?
It is. You're right about that. I could not agree more. I mean, this is a very dangerous thing, and I think people like Josh Hawley have to be, repudiated for their. He sounds. You put Elizabeth Warren in the room with Josh Hawley, God forbid what comes out. right? I mean, it's the worst ideas of the right and the worst ideas of the left that sometimes seem offended in America today. But I don't think he represents. I think he represents a fringe of the Republican Party, but not the majority by any means. And it's the people like Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and the real staunch free market people, I think, that still have control of the party. And I'm trying to steer Donald Trump every day in that direction, and Larry Kudlow is too. And for the most part, man, God, let's celebrate. We got the best stock market in history. We got the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. We got the lowest interest rates in 50 years. We got the lowest mortgage rates in 50 years. We got 7 million surplus jobs. This is a great country, folks. Let's not screw it up with socialism.
All right, we know what Steve Moore is thankful for on this holiday weekend. Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, the book Trumponomics. Steve, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, go Illini. We got to go to a bowl game this year.
All right, you can join us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, it's Amy Jacobson, and I have an exclusive offer for our listeners just in time for the holidays. If you buy a set of Giza cotton sheets from MyPillow, you'll get a second set free, 2 for 1. Not only that, but you'll get free shipping. If you add anything else to your order, like MyPillows, mattress toppers, towels, anything, those items will ship free too. And you can get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, but you have to use the promo code Amy. I love MyPillow. I can't sleep without it. And I just started sleeping with my brand new Giza cotton sheets, and I'm sleeping so much better. All products have a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. So go to